All right. Welcome to this week's webinar with the Savvy STR Agent team. Today we're going to talk about how to operate your short-term rental remotely. So a little bit about me. I am Joe Rohne. I am a Savvy Realtor for the Florida Panhandle, specializing in Panama City Beach. But I pretty much handle everything from Pensacola all the way down through the Forgotten Coast, all the way to St. George Island. So Panama City Beach seems to be the best place to invest right now with the best numbers. I currently own short-term rentals in Panama City Beach, and I also co-host and manage 8 additional properties. So I've been doing that for about 3 years, so I kind of have a really good pulse on what's happening down there. And managing from St. Louis, which is where I actually permanently live, managing 9 properties, which is why I wanted to do this webinar today to talk about what it takes to be able to manage from afar. Because if you are looking into getting into real estate investing in short-term rentals, or you already are, maybe you have a property manager, the way you're going to make the most money is by self-managing and managing it yourself. So we're going to kind of, do a high-level overview of what that looks like. For the clients that I work with and help them purchase homes, and I think most savvy agents do as well, we usually help our clients, get everything set up, get their boots on the ground, and get them in the right direction so they understand what they're doing. There's a lot of resources, a lot of, podcasts and books and all kinds of things that can help you in this journey. But this is going to give you hopefully a little bit of a head start. If you do have any questions at all, please add questions in the chat as we go along, and we will answer those questions at the end of each slide. So if you have any questions, please do that. So let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, I've been managing properties. I permanently live in St. Louis. I kind of travel back and forth a lot, being a real estate agent in both areas. But I also manage properties in Branson, Missouri, which is about 4 hours away from me the other way. And doing so, it's really important to have your boots on the ground, right? So we're going to talk about the boots on the ground. We're going to talk about technology. What are the things that you must have? And then we're going to talk about some additional technology that takes your property management or your self-management to the next level to really help you, get your property performing at a high level. So the first thing we're going to talk about is boots on the ground. So, for your boots on the ground, a lot of people say, well, all I need is a handyman and a cleaner, and that's it. And, for the most part, that is it in some situations, but there's a lot of reasons to have more than just that. But really want to kind of deep dive into this a little bit more because, everything starts with your cleaning team. So when you decide to buy a property, no matter what market you're in, when you go down for inspections, or you're going down for a final walkthrough or a closing, you are going to start interviewing and hiring different cleaning companies. There are typically in that area, especially if it is a vacation rental market, probably multiple Facebook groups for cleaning companies or multiple Facebook groups for short-term rental for that town. And you definitely want to get on those, and that's going to help you find some cleaners to interview. But I'm going to tell you that this is something that you don't want to do over the phone. I always recommend you go in person to meet this cleaning team, look at them, see them eye to eye, face to face, and walk through and set your expectations. The number one thing that I've seen people that self-manage struggle the most, and honestly, it's not just people that self-manage, it's every property management company anywhere when it comes to short-term rentals, is a cleaning team that either meets the standards or doesn't meet the standards, and they have to fire them and make a change. I'm going to tell you that you will fire a cleaning company at some point in your short-term rental journey. They all start off really, really great. The question is, how do you continue to keep them doing well? Meeting them in person and setting those expectations is a big part of it. Walking through the house, showing them, what the beds are supposed to look like. Show them what areas need to be clean. We'll talk about technology later, but I use Turno, which is an app that allows them to upload photos of the entire house after every turn, so I can see and make sure that they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing from afar. That being said, a lot of people, they'll just have them send 10 or 12 pictures of the room, make sure it looks okay. I have my cleaners give me detailed pictures. I want up close pictures of the kitchen sink. I want pictures from under the kitchen sink. I want pictures of the laundry area. I want pictures of areas that, the guest is probably going to complain. I want pictures from underneath a bed if it doesn't have, a platform bed or, it's got carpet underneath it. I want those types of pictures because that's the stuff that's usually the stuff that's missed. And that's some of the stuff that I have them do. Once you have your cleaning team, they're obviously your eyes and ears. They're your everything. They're in the house more than you are. So if there's any problems, guest does any damages, the first thing my cleaning team does before they even start cleaning is they take 5 minutes and do a walk through the house, look at walls, look at furniture, look at anything that could potentially be broken, and they let me know. And if there is something broken, we can have that conversation with the guest. If it's something really minor, I'm probably not gonna, make a big fuss about it. But, if they broke a whole bed or, put a hole through the wall, then that's something we need to know. So the first thing my cleaning team does is do that. And then they let me know, and then they go in there and do all the cleaning and turn the house and get it ready for the next guest. The second piece of your boots on the ground is your handyman. And your handyman is also just as important as the cleaning team because you were going to get that 9 o'clock phone call that, the batteries are going dead in the door lock, or you have a door handle loose, or a toilet that needs plunged, or whatever it may be, right? And a lot of the times your handyman can handle that. My handyman go in and a lot of times a curtain rod will come off or a hook for the towels will get loose. Those are the little things that the handyman is taking care of on a week in and week out basis, especially during the busy season. And so it's really important that you have someone that can be at that house within a couple of hours. That doesn't mean they have to be, as soon as you call them, they stop what they're doing and go there. But you definitely want to network with a handyman that's going to have flexibility to go to your house whenever you need and take care of minor issues. And those minor issues are some of those things that I just talked about. But those minor issues could also be, your handyman might be a little more handy than others. I had mine, we're actually having snow and freezing temperatures in Florida right now. So my handyman went to every single house and opened up all the cabinets, trickled all of the water faucets, turned off the irrigation systems, made sure that the house was ready for this deep freeze that we're getting down at the beach, which is really rare. In hurricane season or during storm season, they're going to my houses and putting up the hurricane shutters and making sure that the house is prepared for a storm if it comes in. So handyman does a lot of things for you, and you definitely want to pay them accordingly. I actually have a system with my handyman. They go into every one of my houses each month and do about a 10-point checklist. They're checking the air filters for the HVAC. They're checking on the batteries. They're checking on remote batteries, making sure all the remotes are accounted for. If in our areas that we have like golfing, your putt, they're making sure we have enough putt balls and putters and just kind of take an inventory of things. So, they charge me about $50 per property per month on average, and they're going into every single one of my houses every month to take care of some of those minor things. So then I don't have to call them as much when there's actually a guest there. The other things that you definitely want to have. Now, these are two people, the cleaning team and the handyman. Like I said, when you're there, you want to meet these people in person. You want to talk to them and you want to, really set your expectations and get on the same page. This is a relationship business, and anything short-term rentals or real estate, it is 100% about building a relationship. I send my cleaning handyman Christmas cards. I send them bonuses. I send them, anything I can because I can't do this without them. It does cost a little bit more when you're managing from afar to be able to pay this handyman and the cleaning team. But when you think about saving 20% on management fees, that $200 bonus or whatever it may be is nickels and dimes compared to paying a property manager 20%. So just have your boots on the ground is really, really important. We're going to go through the other areas that you definitely want to have. One is an HVAC company. Your HVAC company is not someone that you're going to probably meet in person, but you're going to call around a couple of HVAC companies, read the reviews on Google, find a company that's been in business more than 1 year, and have that conversation with them on, do they have a 24/7 on-call person? And having a 24/7 HVAC company is crucial because it's 10 o'clock at night on Saturday when the air conditioner goes out, not when there's no guests there. That's when it's going to happen. It's going to happen at the most inopportune times, and you want to be able to have a contact in your phone that you can make a phone call to a 24/7 line and they can get there. Now, they may not be able to get there in 30 minutes, but they'll get there within a couple of hours on average. I was on vacation this summer in Colorado with my family. We had a air conditioner when the guests checked in at 9 o'clock at night that was not working. Called my HVAC company. They were there about an hour later. Had a clogged line. They got it unclogged, got everything good to go. It was under $100 for me. The guest was happy. We took care of them. They just dropped their stuff, went to dinner. By the time they got back, the house was cooling. All was good. The other couple things you definitely want to have is your plumber and electrician. Again, this is not someone that you're going to, meet face to face and have a lot of conversations with because you may only need them once a year. But you definitely want to make sure that you have a couple of contacts and contact them ahead of time and say, hey, I have a property in X area. Is that an area you service? And if I were to have a problem, is that something that you can handle? And as long as they're good with it, you want to be able to have those contacts in your phone or with you at all times. The lawn and landscape company is another big part because if you do have a grass, or maybe you don't have any grass and it's all just rock and landscape, you're still going to have weeds. Weeds are going to come through. You're going to need someone out there a minimum once every month. In some areas like the Midwest, it's, you're having weekly cut. In Florida, we do bi-weekly cut pretty much throughout the summer months and then once a month in the winter. And they take care of the lawn and landscape, any issues that I have, pulling weeds, spraying weeds, whatever it may be. And then finally, if you have a pool or a hot tub, you're going to need your company that's going to handle that. A lot of times on a hot tub, your cleaner might be able to handle that or your handyman, and they just go by. In some states, they require you to drain that hot tub after every turn. In some areas, you might be, as long as you keep your chemicals good, you might be good a couple turns on a hot tub before draining it and refilling it. It depends on where you're at and the climate that you're in. Pools, during the peak season, 2 times a week, you got to have it serviced. You got to have it cleaned and chemicals checked twice a week during the peak season. That can go down to once a week during the off season, during the shoulder season. But during the peak season, your pool can go from clear to green in a matter of 3 days if it's not right. And if you have a lot of guests and they use a lot of, sunscreen or chemicals or whatever, and they get in your pool and they're really using it for multiple days in a row, it could easily change the pH levels and everything else to turn your pool the wrong color or be cloudy. So you definitely want to have a pool company that's going to take care of that. So before we even start our listing or buy our house, or finalize everything, we got to have some of these contacts in place. And a lot of people, like I said, they just say, oh, I just need a cleaner and a handyman and I'm good. These are other areas that you definitely want to have. So with that, before I move on to some of the tech, if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we will get them answered for you. But I'm going to move on to some of the tech. Of course, we're going to talk about property management systems in just a minute. But before we do that, these are the things that in my opinion, are must-haves. And, I've been managing these properties for about 3 years now. And I can tell you that a few of these that we're talking about, I don't think I would be successful if I didn't have these certain things. Of course, Airbnb and VRBO, that's going to be our top 2 flat platforms. You'll see a lot of people saying, oh, I can build a direct booking website and I can get all my bookings from there. And that sounds great. But the realistic honesty is the best in the industry are only getting about 30 to 40% of their bookings through direct bookings. So there might be a few odd people here and there that are 80, 90% that have been doing it for a long time, but the majority of your bookings are going to come through Airbnb or VRBO, and you want to be on both platforms. You do not have to pay for a property management system to do that. If you only have one property, you can create your listing on Airbnb, create your listing on VRBO. You can sync the calendars to where if somebody books on one, it'll block out the calendar on the other, and you can set up your messaging system in both apps. You don't necessarily have to have a property management system to have messaging. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but you can set up all of your messages, auto messages, and everything on Airbnb and VRBO. There will be certain messages that you can have auto sent, and then of course your normal guest communication when people are asking questions. I was sitting on the couch last night. I have a guest checking into one of my beach houses this Friday, and they were confirming the beds where they were because they're making plans on who's sleeping where. And that's not something I can have an auto message about. That's just me answering a couple questions really quickly as they asked them last night. Um, Pricing is one of the things I really want to talk about because, as the short-term rental market gets more and more competitive, dynamic pricing and having a revenue management system in place is crucial. Airbnb and VRBO both have a system that you can say, oh, you guys help me price it. I'm going to tell you right now that those systems are not good for you. They're good for Airbnb and VRBO. It's going to help your house get booked more, but it's probably not going to be at the rate that you want. They're going to get it to a price that they feel they can get it booked, which may be $100, $200, or $500 a night less than what you could actually get if you priced it competitively. So dynamic pricing, there's a couple different tools, a couple different places, Price Labs, Wheelhouse, Beyond Pricing. There's a few others out there. Those are the top three. I personally use Price Labs. It's a really easy tool, but if you think about how the airlines price, is kind of what a dynamic pricing tool does. So, airlines say, okay, there's so much, people looking for flights at a certain time, and there's a lot of volume or traffic, or you get around a holiday, it's going to automatically increase prices for the airlines ahead of time, far before that holiday even comes. Dynamic pricing tool does the same thing. It takes into consideration all of the major events that it knows about. And what really is cool is if you see, we have Bike Week in March in Panama City Beach, and Bike Week starts to fill up very, very quickly. Well, I'm sorry, it's in May, not March. As Bike Week starts to fill up, the Price Labs knows, or Wheelhouse Beyond, they know how many people are actually booking or looking into this, and they'll adjust your prices up automatically because they're seeing an influx of the amount of people searching. So it really does a good job for you. It is not a set it and forget it tool. It's not a thing where you go in and say, okay, this is my base price, this is my high, this is my low, and it does its thing. There are a lot of different revenue managers out there that can teach you different things. Price Labs in general has dozens of videos to learn some of the tricks of the trade. You can put rules in where, like, for instance, I have a house right now that's a 7-night minimum in the summer months. But once April 1st hits, we're going to take that 7-night minimum and it'll automatically adjust it down to a 5-night minimum. And then it'll go to like a 4-night, then a 3-2-1, whatever it is, as it gets closer to, those dates. So I want to book the higher amount of nights when I'm booking far ahead of time. But as I get closer, it changes. I have that all set up in Price Labs automatically. So when I get within 30 days or 60 days or whatever it may be, it'll automatically adjust what my minimum nights booked would be. I also have pricing adjustments in there. So if I get within, 10 days, it may drop my price 50%. So I can try to get that booked last minute if I haven't gotten booked yet. So there's some great tools in the dynamic pricing, and you're not going to get that when you turn on smart pricing on Airbnb. So learn about it, use it. It's a huge tool. Talking about cleaners a minute ago, there are cleaning scheduling tools. You got Turno, I'm sorry, I said Rank Breeze, but it's Breezeway. There's a few different tools out there that you can use for your cleaning team. I personally like Turno, and since I use OwnerRez as my property management system, Turno is free for me. So as soon as I get a booking, it automatically sends my cleaner a message on the app saying, this is the booking, these are the nights booked, and this is how many people. So they know that when the guest is checking in to make sure if it's a same day turnover, they plan for it. If it's not a same day turnover, then they can see that as well. They know exactly how many guests are going to be there. So they know if they need to leave extra towels out, or, if we only have 4 guests coming in on a house that sleeps 10, they don't need to leave 15 towels out. They can leave, 8 and be fine and have a little bit less laundry. They don't need to have that many. So, the The cleaning scheduler is also great because it's also where they can upload their photos and doing those photos online it really helps you look at your property and know what's going on. It also, when they get to the property, they say they're there, they check in, and then when they're done, they check out, and they can tell you when they're done. So if you have a guest that's going to come in, a same day turnover, and the cleaner puts in there that they're completed with their cleaning, you get a notification on your phone. Then bam, you could contact that guest that's been sitting around having lunch and say, hey, the house is ready. If you want to check in an hour early or 2 hours early, go for it. You're not having to constantly make phone calls or text back and forth with your cleaning team. All the communication can be right there. Electronic locks is by far one of the most important things that you can have as far as automations, because when you have a Wi-Fi electronic lock like a Schlage and code, Yale Assure, you know when the door is locked and unlocked because you have it on your app. You can see it. So you know if somebody left the house and left the door unlocked, and you can actually lock the door from afar, or you can unlock the door from afar. I have it set up to where every guest that checks in, it creates that door code being the last four digits of their phone number. I think most people do that. It makes it easy for the guest to remember, so they don't have to pull out their phone every time they get home and say, oh, what was that door code? I can't remember. One of the most common door locks for property managers is the Kava locks, and it's usually like a 6-digit code with a star. And I've stayed at houses that have those. And don't get me wrong, they are locks that last forever. They're great locks, but they are not convenient. Every single time I got to that house or condo that I was renting with a Kava lock at that time, I had to pull out my phone and say, what is that code again? Because I never remembered it. I was there for a whole week and I still didn't remember it. But if I make that 4-digit code the last four of my phone number or the guest phone number, it's convenience. It makes it easy for them to remember. They can go in, go out, all is good. You can also, one of the things I will say with the electronic locks, you definitely want to have is a backup plan. So technology is amazing until technology doesn't work. And you might have it go offline and it didn't create the code correctly, or you might have, power outage, whatever. The codes will typically still work in a power outage, but if you have a situation where your lock goes offline and they can't get it open, I have a lockbox, usually in the door frame. I have a 4-digit code with a key, and I can give that to the guest so they can access the house just in case the technology shuts down. I've had that happen 2 times in 3 years across 9 or 10 different houses. It is not common, but you don't want to have it happen and not have a backup plan. It's really important that you have that. So, kind of moving on a little bit to your Ring and Google camera. I'm not a big camera guy. I am not a camera watcher. If you're getting your first short-term rental for the first 30 to 60 days, you are going to look at that camera every single time a guest enters and leaves, and it's just something that most new hosts do. And then after about 30, 60, maybe 90 days, you're like, okay, I'll just look at the guest when they show up, and then I'll silence it for the rest of the week so I don't get any more notifications. And then you'll get to a point where you never even look at the camera at all. I still look at the camera sometimes, but it's important to have that Ring or Google camera for the front, because that's how you're going to know, if the amount of people that they said were coming are coming. Especially if you're in an area and you're renting to spring breakers or whatever it is, and you just have a little bit of a uneasy feeling about a guest, whatever it may be, you have that option to look at the camera when they're coming into the house. Now, that's not in the house. Never have a camera inside the home. I'm not a big fan of having the camera anywhere where the guest is hanging out, but having that Ring camera or front porch camera, looking out to the driveway, always a good idea. And then finally, on the must-have technology, Wi-Fi thermostats. You want to know what the temperature is inside your house. In the winter months, you're going to want to be able to turn the heater on. In the summer months, you're going to want to be able to turn the air conditioner on, vice versa, right? You want to be able to control that. And if you don't have a guest for 2 weeks during the shoulder season, you can lower that AC by, 10, 15 degrees and lower your electric bill. If you don't have a Wi-Fi thermostat, you're not going to be able to do that, and you're relying on your handyman. You can do that. You can rely on your cleaner and your handyman to say, hey, before you leave, turn the air conditioner down to, or up, whatever it may be. And then, whenever the guest comes, they can set it accordingly. There are some hosts out there that have, on their Wi-Fi or on their Wi-Fi thermostats or on their thermostats, they have controls where they can't go below or above a certain temperature. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I personally don't, but especially if you're in an area that has, in a beach area or a warm area that people might leave the doors open, that's an area that you might want to have it set up. There are some people that have their thermostat set up to where if a door is left open for more than 2 minutes, it'll shut the air conditioner down, and you can have that set up. So there are some different things that you can do in your thermostats as well and your HVAC system, but it just kind of depends on how much control you really want to have on it. So, any questions on these 6 topics that we're going over today, as far as what I have as far as must-have technology? I'm gonna go back just a second just to make sure I have what I need here. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So let's start talking about next level tech, right? So those topics that I just talked about, those in my opinion are like, you got to have it. Those are must-haves. How do you get your short-term rental to the next level? And there's multiple different ways that you can do that. But these are things that are going to help you market your property, understand your competition, understand your rankings, know what kind of changes you can make the guest experience better, all of that stuff. So the property management system, most hosts have some sort of property management system. If you only have a couple of properties, my favorite is Hospitable. They actually have an amazing platform as far as their messaging. I have about 9 messages that automatically send to my guests from the moment they send an inquiry to once it's booked to 2 weeks before, just giving them some information to sending them digital guidebooks, check-in information, sending another message the day after they check in to make sure everything was okay and if there's anything that I can do. And then, of course, check out information and beyond, right? So there's a lot of messages that I send out to all of my guests that I never, ever take out my phone and send. I never log in to send. It's automatically all sent. And I do that through my property management system. Like I said, OwnerRez is a very good one. I'm sorry, Hospital is a very good one if you only have 1 or 2 properties. I use OwnerRez because it's a really robust system. It's got the messaging system. It's got reporting features for the owners that I'm co-hosting for. It's got, just tons and tons of things that I can do in there. The 2 most important things that I use in OwnerRez are going to be sending a rental agreement to be digitally signed and asking for a security deposit hold. Most property management systems don't let you do that. There are some that do. I'm not saying OwnerRez is the only one, but there are quite a few that don't. So if you're looking at a property management system, you have to do some research on what works for you. Guesty for hosts and Guesty for pros are 2 other ones. There's OwnerRez, Hospitable. There's so many different ones out there. Actually, I think at one point there was somewhere around 90 or 100 different property management systems. So, go to your Facebook groups, Google it, or go into search tool and search property management systems and read what people like and don't like. And, you can also set up calls with these tech companies, with the property management system companies, and they'll go through and give you a full rundown of what they offer and what they do. You may get one and have it for a while and realize you don't like it and you switch to a different one. I did that. I started with one and I switched over after about 3 months, but I've been really happy and I've stayed with, the one that I'm with for the last 2.5 years now. So it makes life easy. The other things that I also really like about a property management system is it collects the data for you. So when a guest books, you're going to get in your property management system their email, their phone number, their address sometimes. You're going to get all that information that you could potentially remarket to. But it's also important to have that information because let's just say, and this has happened, Airbnb finds that you had a party and they shut down your listing for 2 weeks. Now you have all of your guests' information, and you can contact them and say, "Hey, we had an issue with our Airbnb link. If you want to book direct or book on my VRBO, whatever it is, here's the link. I'd love to have you rebook with me," because it happens. Airbnb has shut down listings in the past, for different rule violations or whatever it may be. So when you have that property management system, you're getting that information. Um, the other things that I personally use, so I like to have a direct booking website for each one of my properties. And what I've learned is that a landing page is better than a traditional website. If you think about today's technology, people want to get online and they want everything fast. And if you go to a traditional website, you have this big toolbar at the top and it's like property, photos, beds, and you got to click each little thing to learn about each little thing about the house. And everybody wants information so fast. They just want to scroll, scroll, scroll and move on. So when you're building a sales page or a landing page, you can have all that information on one screen. They can just scroll, look at it, at it, read about it. And the only buttons that I have on my landing pages are book and inquire or message the host. That's it. There's no other buttons to take them anywhere else. And we get really good conversion over that. From what I understand, it's quite a bit higher conversion than a traditional website. So the other things that Market My STR does, so Market My STR has a landing page built into it that you can build as many as you want. I have 9 properties. I have 9 landing pages. I have one for my property management website, one for my co-hosting website, all within one place in Market My STR. Now, Market My STR, if you only have one property, it's probably a little pricey. You're probably better to build your landing page on Wix or leadpages.com or whatever it may be. There's some other areas that you can do it. The other things that I like about Market My STR is I have a full CRM to collect all of my data. So everything from my property management system and all emails that I collect and guest information goes right into Market My STR, and I can use that for my email marketing campaign. I have basically a 250-day funnel, which, if you follow the Build STR Wealth page, I know Bill talks about that all the time. I have an email marketing funnel that sends all of those people emails roughly about every 15 to 20 days to talk about different things that are happening in the area, whatever it may be. I want those guests to come back and book with me year after year. And in the long-term game of short-term rentals, that's truly what it's all about. The majority of people like to vacation in the same place year after year. I have friends that vacation in the same condo complex year after year, and it's a beautiful condo complex right on the beach, and they love it because they know what to expect. I have other people that stay in the same house. We've had a guest in our house every year for 3 years. They love it. They come back to the same place, and now they don't book on Airbnb and VRBO. They're booking directly with me. So they're saving 10%, and I'm actually making a little bit more money because I'm not paying those Airbnb fees. So it's a win-win for everybody to be able to have that, email marketing and tell them about your property and how they can come back and see you. The other things, there's a lot of other things that Market My STR does. You can schedule, hook it up to your social media and do Facebook posts or, doing stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things that you can do in the Market My STR platform, and it's continuing to evolve. So if you have 3 or more properties, I definitely recommend checking it out. As far as StayFi to the right there, I use StayFi as my Wi-Fi system in every house. So basically, they don't get a username and password for the Wi-Fi. It gets redirected, and they have to enter their name and email address. And what that allows me to do is get emails for everybody in the house, not just the person that booked the property. So the reason why that's important is in today's world, we have a lot of multi-family vacations. People are sharing a house, 2, 3, 4 families. I was talking to a softball coach yesterday, and he's asked me to help him find a house for 7 families for the softball World Series that's happening down in the Destin area. And so they're going to have, about 25 people in this house when it's all said and done. And using a Wi-Fi system like StayFi, that's potentially 25 emails that we're going to get if they log into Wi-Fi on their phone or on their device and enter their name and email. So if I were just email marketing to the people that booked my property over the past 3 years, I'd probably be sending out, you know, let's say 500 emails. Instead, I'm sending out about 2,500 emails every single month. You know, and it's the number's probably higher than that, but that's just a, you know, general number. So StayFi helps you collect those. Only use these tools. Markup My STR and StayFi. Don't pay for those if you're not going to use them. If you just want to say, I got the technology and it's great, but if you're not actually going to have an email marketing campaign and you're not going to remarket and retarget your guests, don't pay for these. It can get pricey, and you need to make sure that you stay within your budget that you're allowing when you're running your performance. The other things that we have on here, RankBreeze and Telehost. These are two systems that I like. I use RankBreeze personally, and it pulls the data and it tells me how many people have viewed my house, you know, what page my listing might be on. That doesn't mean my listing is on that page for every single search, but it gives you an average. How many people clicked on, you know, what my click-through rate is, what's my conversion. I can also track my competitors on there. I can go on there and find my competitors and add them and put them on there so I can look at their prices compared to my prices and make sure I'm priced effectively. So there's a lot of different things that I use in RankBreeze, and I have my assistant go through and put together reports for me, and I go through weekly and make sure that we're staying on target where we want to be as far as the competition is concerned. Again, this is not a thing that if you only had one property, you can get all of that information in just the Airbnb app itself. There is an Insights tab on Airbnb, and it'll tell you all that information that RankBreeze has. But for me, with 9+ properties, it just makes it a little bit easier for me to get all that information. I got a question here, and I'm going to answer it real quickly. It says, I noticed after my guests check out, I no longer have phone numbers of guests available in my hospitable PMS. Does Market My STR capture the contact info? It does, and you may need to use a app like Zapier to zap it. I know Market My STR, we don't have to use it. We have an API integration with OwnerRez now, so I don't necessarily have to use a Zapier anymore. But in StayFi and RankBreeze, you're going to get that information, and it's going to transfer over. I've heard of Hospitable not storing all the phone numbers anymore, and I'm not sure if that's just something that's happening now or if it's going to be something that continues on. I would definitely message Hospitable or contact support about that and see, because you should be able to keep the information of your guests long term. Of course, you have that information in Airbnb and VRBO as well, even after they check out. But and it says have the phone number of, yeah, I mean, it should keep it for you. So if it doesn't, you know, and yes, I agree. Doing it manually is a pain. That is not something that you want to have to do. So, like I said, you can, with Hospitable, you might need to use Zapier to zap everything over to Market My STR. And it doesn't even have to be Market My STR. You could do a cheaper platform like you know, different email marketing campaign like MailChimp. You know, there's different places that you can collect CRM to. I just personally like Market My STR. Digital guidebooks, Stripe accounts. These are other things, you know, that we have. It says easy button for paying taxes. That's under the wrong thing. So I use TouchStay for digital guidebooks. You can create your own digital guidebook in Canva and send it to your guests. I like the TouchStay guidebook. I think it's about $100 a year for the first one, and then each one gets cheaper as you do it. I think I'm spending about $400 a year for 9 properties for having that TouchStay. So when you break that down to a month, you know, that's really not very expensive. And that TouchStay app gets sent to them about a week before they show up, and it tells them everything that's in the kitchen, you know, how many pots and pans we have, and we have our crock pot and our mixers and everything else. And it tells them exactly how many towels we're going to be leaving. It shows them pictures of the different areas. And then it also tells them about the local restaurants that we like and the local places to go hang out, how far the grocery store is. If they want to order Instacart, it tells them what's the closest grocery store to the house so they can order an Instacart and have it delivered the day that they are arriving. This is becoming very common. Instacart on to pick up groceries on your way in is becoming extremely common in the short-term rental world. So giving them that information up front is great. So it used to be that the guidebook, you'd get to the house and you'd open up this binder and the binder would tell you all about the area. Well, today's we're in newer technology. You don't need to wait till you get to the house to find that information, and that digital guidebook definitely helps. Like I said, I use TouchStay. I know HostAway is a property management system. They have their own guidebook in HostAway. There's different ones that you can use. Like I said, you can also create your own and send it for free in Canva, but I personally like the TouchStay one. I got another comment here. It says, I've been considering adding price labs to my listing, and after hearing your thoughts on it, I decided to go ahead and add it today. It's been doing well. I'm hoping this will make it even better. It definitely will. But like I said before, don't set it and forget it. There's a couple of Facebook groups. I know Jake Cohen has the Price My STR, and I think Emil Sakal has Pricing by Mira. They both have different Facebook groups. Join those. They give lots of good tips and tricks. And then you can also, like I said, watch some of the videos that Price Labs or Wheelhouse, whatever it is, adds, and make sure that you do that. So as far as the other stuff that you want to do, you want to have a Stripe account. It doesn't have to be a Stripe account, but it needs to be some way to collect payment. So some property management systems require you to be the merchant of record on VRBO. So, that's one thing you want to check. So if you're going to API connect to VRBO, they no longer will collect the money for you. You have to collect it yourself. And so you'll need a Stripe account or some sort of payment processing system that'll go to your bank account and hold the funds. If you don't want to become the merchant of record, but you still want to have a Stripe account or something like that for your direct booking page, you can do that. Just don't API connect to VRBO. Airbnb typically will still be the merchant of record for you, even if you API connect on most property management systems. And then one more thing on the property management system, some property management systems will allow you to still just get charged 3% by Airbnb and the guests get charged 15%. There are some property management systems that when you use them, and I think Lodgify is one of them, Airbnb no longer charges the guest. You have to charge the guest or you eat the 15% fee. So you're still paying that 15% commission to Airbnb, but they're not charging the guest for it. You have to charge it and then pay them separately. So make sure when you're looking at property management systems, you know which one does what. I still have the system to where I get charged 3%, the guest gets charged 15%, and I do not, do that myself. I got one more chat here. Okay. Last thing that we're going to talk about is Avalara. So in many areas, you are going to, have to pay some sort of local tax. Airbnb will usually collect and remit your state taxes, and they may collect all of your taxes and remit it. Same with VRBO. They may do some, they may not do others. But in many areas, you still have. So like in our area in the beach market, there's the state charges the tax, which Airbnb and VRBO collect that and remit that for me. But there's a local tax, and that local tax is 5% for the county and then 1% for the city. So I have to collect that. It goes into my bank account, and then at the end of each month, I got to go in and pay that. Very, very simple to do. If you only have one property, you can just log into your county or city or state, whatever it is that you have, and remit that. If you want the easy button, you can sign up for Avalara. It's like $30 a month. And all you have to do is send them how much bookings you had and how many nights you had booked, and they'll handle everything for you. They'll handle making sure it gets remitted, making sure all your documents are good, the whole work. So I have some of the owners that I co-host for that use Avalara, and I love it. It makes my life so much easier because I could just send them the report, they enter it into Avalara, and it's a done deal. So not all areas do you have to collect and remit taxes. but I'm going to say the majority do have something that you're going to have to collect and remit. You definitely, like in Missouri, if you're under a certain dollar amount, you only have to do it once a year. So you're collecting your VRBO taxes, which is just VRBO. In Missouri, Airbnb does it for you. But on VRBO, you got to collect it and remit it, and then you have to go in online at the end of the year and make your payment. So just make sure that you have the information on what that is for your area, because every area is going to be different. All right. This is where you can scan and connect and schedule a call with me. So I do a lot of calls with investors that want to get into this space. Obviously, I'm helping a lot of investors that are in the Panama City Beach or interested in booking at the beach or buying a house at the beach market. But if you just want to schedule a call and ask some questions and chat for 10 15 minutes about short-term rentals, if you have questions over some of the content that I went over today on self-managing, feel free to scan that, book a call with me. My calendar is the times that are open, so whatever comes up available. It's a little bit slower time of year for me, so my calendar is a little bit more available this week and next week than it is other times. But because we are in the off season at most of my properties. So if you're interested in talking, if you're interested in investing in the beach market, feel free to scan that. Let's connect. Let's hop on a call, and we can see if we can help you with anything. We at the Savvy, if you've been on these, a little bit about our Savvy team. We specialize in short-term rentals. That's what we do. We truly want to help investors find short-term rentals that are going to meet their goals. And your goal is going to be different than other investors' goals. Some people have goals that they just want a short-term rental that's going to, break even. So it's like a lifestyle asset. Some people are looking for cash flow. Some people are looking to just have a second home, and they don't even care if it pays for itself. If they can rent it out a couple times, great. Everybody's got different goals. We mostly work with investors that truly want to find cash flowing assets. And, everybody on our team is specialized in their area. Almost everybody owns and operates their own short-term rentals in their area. And that makes a big difference when you're choosing a realtor to work with, finding someone that truly understands the market and what's going on. This is our team currently, and the markets that we're in, and we are growing. We are growing into more markets throughout the nation, and we have specialized realtors in each market that specifically service that area. So if you have an area that you're interested, reach out to us. You can reach out to me or any agent. We can get a hold of you. You can go to our website, savvy.realty, and find information about the different people. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get a hold of us on there. And hopefully we can help you out and find your next short-term rental. So that is really all I have. I'm going to stay online for, a couple of minutes and be happy to answer any chats that you have or any questions that you may have. It's short-term rentals is a really, really awesome way for you to potentially change your life, but you have to do it smart. There are a lot of people that got into the space over the last couple of years that they didn't do their research. They didn't, talk to an agent that was invested in the market. They just went and bought a house and made it a short-term rental. And then they realized, ooh, it's a little bit harder than I thought it was. It's not, I'm not saying it's hard, but it's not easy, and you are going to get those 8 o'clock calls on the weekend that you got to handle something if you don't have an assistant or someone taking care of that. You are going to have to do stuff, but you can mostly self-manage your property if you only have one property in probably 2 to 3 hours a week. And that's the honest truth. It's not going to take much time. And as long as you're where you can hop on, check your phone every couple hours throughout the day, or, look at it to see if there's any kind of emergencies, you can self-manage, and you're going to save yourself the 20% management fees. I charge 20% for the properties that I co-host for, and I'm managing for people that are, doctors and surgeons and, or they work for the state, whatever it may be, that they just can't self-manage. And there's some people and that understandable. You got a career that you can't do it. It's okay. Just understand that the return on your investment is not going to be as big if you're going to hire a property manager. And if you can save that 20%, you're going to make a lot more money. So, but I appreciate everybody hopping on today. I think there was 25, 28 people that hopped on. So Thank you very much. And Chris, thank you. And like I said, I'll stay on for about another 30 seconds. So if anyone's got any questions, let me know. And if not, we'll just hang here until got a couple other comments coming in. So perfect. All right. Um, Nicole asked if I was still using StayFi with Markham STR. Yes, I am, because the Markham STR doesn't collect the emails. There's no system for you to collect the emails yet. Well, I take that back. Markham STR actually came out with a barcode system to where you don't have to use StayFi, and I have not gone into that to do that yet. So Markham STR has a barcode to where you can put it in the property, and it can collect the emails for you that way instead of having to spend the money on StayFi. I'm probably going to be testing it on my next property. We're taking over a new co-host property in February that doesn't have StayFi, and I'm going to try it. We're going to try that to see if we can save the $200 StayFi device and $6 a month, whatever it is that we pay, and see how it goes. So yes, Nicole, I'm going to give that a shot next month. But if you don't have Market STR, StayFi is a great way to collect the emails. All right. If nobody has anything else, I will sign off. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And make sure you sign up for next week's webinar. We're going to keep continuing to do these every single week and try to bring you as much information as we can and make it beneficial for your short-term rental ownership. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks so much.